I saw a rather interesting video just a little while ago. It's from some guy, a young guy, over in the Philippines. And apparently there were some people in the comments or whatever who making some negative comments about him or whatever, going over to the Philippines, really young and whatever. But he made an interesting comment. He said, he was going to church all the time and everything, and yet sleeping around like back in America, before he went to the Philippines. And he just felt like he shouldn't be doing that he should change the way he was living. But he didn't want to wife up a 304, which I had to look that up since I'm not up on all this cute little slang, which I guess a 304 is slang for a hoe. Because if you type 304 into like an old style calculator, turn it upside down, it's like ho. But he's like, believe it or not, in the Philippines you can still find virgins. But that got me thinking, well, if he needs to find a virgin, shouldn't he be expecting his wife, maybe she wants to find a virgin? That's what it cracks me up about a lot of these guys that go to the Philippines. I'm sure there are still some virgins around over there, but anybody who's actually been to the Philippines or interacted with some of the people over there, that a lot of these girls, everybody thinks it's like some kind of a strict Catholic country, and you got a bunch of virginal little schoolgirls over there. And obviously, if you look at the rate of teenage pregnancies, unwed mothers, and so forth over there, and all the people who are running around doing whatever they want, not giving a damn about their supposed Catholic morals, that's not necessarily what you're going to find. Though it's worse in some places than others, obviously. And you can find people who were raised in kind of a more maybe strict upbringing, or their parents actually tried to raise children who were good people. But I don't understand this thing with these guys who they always expect more from women than what they have to offer the woman. Is your wife, especially you look at these guys, really old guys, I mean really old, but even if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, they go over there and get involved with people. It's like in my case, I had been married and divorced and living a life, for 30 years almost before my wife was even born. Now, would it make sense for her to expect me, oh, well, I got to find a guy, this guy, if he's not a virgin, then I can't be with him? That would be kind of strange. And yet, at the same time, you'll find guys who go over there to the Philippines, and that's what they expect of the women, I've known plenty of guys in my life who, for some reason, they seem to think it's different. It's different for a man to be promiscuous than for a woman to be promiscuous. I don't know if they think that just because if the guy is promiscuous, he's the one who's making the deposits. And if a woman's being promiscuous, she's the one who's having the deposits made in her, or what their philosophy is, or if it's just because of centuries of just casual indoctrination to the fact that men can do what they want and sleep around, and women are supposed to be, little virginal schoolgirls. I just don't get it. If your wife has no right to ask you about your past and what you've done and how many people you've been with and all that kind of stuff, do you really have the right to expect that of her, that she's never been with anybody or done anything? I don't know personally what kind of a guy goes over to another country looking for a virgin anyways. There has to be something kind of wrong and immature with a person like that. They're not looking for a mate or a partner. They're looking for, something out of some little fantasy that they have. That's just not realistic. When you talk to someone, whether it's here in America or in another country, and you meet somebody who has been out living a life of their own long before they knew you, just like you were. Oh man, crazy. And just like you were living a life before, you met them. What's the deal with people wanting to hold other people's past against them? Now, if you meet someone who is obviously acting in a way that makes you think maybe they were at some point pretty promiscuous, and you have fears that that is not really behind them, then you might have reason for caution if you're talking about putting a ring on someone's finger, and getting tied down to them and having that person in your life. But women have just as much reason to fear that as a man does. Plenty of men out there think they have the right to run around. I used to know a guy up in Pittsburgh a long time ago. He was kind of an asshole. We all liked him more because his wife was such a sweet, wonderful person than, because he was around. She would come in, like this one Applebee's where I used to hang out all the time up in Pittsburgh and knew all the people that worked there and everything. And he would come in there, hang out. And when his wife was there, it was great. She was like a nice, sweet person. And as soon as she would leave to maybe go shopping or go to work, I think she was a teacher, if I recall correctly, he'd be hitting on other women, buying other women drinks and stuff. And he told me one time, that it's different for a woman to be doing that stuff than for a man, because the woman is the one who has the power to say no. So I guess it's okay then, as a man, for you to go out and be buying other women drinks and flirting with them and doing all this stuff, because it's up to them if something happens, not you. There are so many men out there who are just illogical jerks when it comes to this kind of stuff. But this guy, the video cracked me up, man. So he didn't want to put a ring on some 304's finger and marry a hoe, someone who's been promiscuous. But I guess he thinks that what the local virgins in the Philippines, they should be looking for some American male hoe to put a ring on their finger. Maybe they're looking for a virgin too, huh? Somebody who hasn't just been with a million other girls. The lack of self-awareness of some of these guys, and just the casual way with which they promote this kind of paradoxical behavior and stuff like that, it just amazes me. Anyways, whatever. I've seen that before in a lot of people, but it's rare to have somebody just come out and state it so blatantly that I want to come over here and find a virgin because I'm a little church boy or whatever. And I wanted to give up my running around so I don't feel like such a hypocrite when I'm sitting there at church. But I guess maybe he's one of those, like, born again virgins or something himself. He can tell everybody, well, I've had sex before, but now I want to be a virgin again. I've heard of crap like that before too, But I guess he had some people in his comments calling him an incel or something, these guys who are, as they say, involuntarily celibate, can't find a woman, and so then they start hating women. But it is very common among men for them to think that they should be allowed to engage in certain behaviors, and if a woman does it, that somehow it's wrong. And that is just such an immature, ridiculously stupid idea,